Hello there, this is David from David Books and Comics, and today I thought I'd look through a collection of comics that I had for a while. It's a completed series that I collected over a number of years. This is Creatures on the Loose number 16, featuring the first appearance and short run of Gulliver Jones, Warrior of Mars, and it's based on Edwin L. Arnold's Gulliver of Mars. Original title, Lieutenant Governor Jones. I think that's not the complete original title. It's not quite complete. It features an introduction by Richard Lupoff. The inspiration for Edgar Rice Burroughs' John Carter series, the Barsoom series. Anyway, this is a loose adaptation, as you'll see. The focus of this video, of course, will be on the artwork. It's one of the attracting features of the series. All of the cover art was done by a guy named Gil Kane. And the series had some great artists. And it's the two artists that I'll be focusing on is Gil Kane and Morrow. And you'll get to see some of their great artwork. Gil Kane did all the covers, like I said. Morrow did the interior art for 2 of the issues. So who was Gil Kane? Gil Kane was born in 1926 in Latvia and became an American and died in the year 2000. He was 73. So this episode will focus on these 2 artists and their work in this very short run series. Gil Kane did all of the cover art for the series along with the art chores in the first 2 issues, and that when we do a flip through you'll get to see something of his work. Kane began drawing for comics in the early 1940s. When he was only 16, he was hired by a company called MLJ, which is now called Archie Comics. His most famous creation in 1959 was the modern day look of the Green Lantern, which is the green and white costume and the green and white look of the Green Lanterns are pretty much the standard even to this day. This Green Lantern appearance appeared, like I said, 1959 in the pages of Showcase number 22. He also created the look of Iron Fist, the Danny Rand Iron Fist, and the basically the costume look of Iron Fist, who first appeared in Marvel Premiere number 15. So we'll just go through the comics and we'll get to see something of their work. So this is the first page, and it's really loosely based on this book, very loosely based, as it says here, freely adapted from the novel of Lieutenant Governor Jones by Edwin L. Arnold. And what the writer, and I believe the writer for the first issue is Roy Thomas. What Roy Thomas did is he brought a modern look, a modern version to the character. So anyway, so there you see Gil Kane's marvelous artwork. Let's see who, and it's Bill Everett, the legendary Bill Everett, who did the inking. And the inking here looks very minimal, actually. It looks very much like Gil Kane's work. There you see the villain of the piece, the love interest. And it does, the villain and the love interest and the people described all appear in the book, by the way. You can see a woman gets kidnapped and our protagonists our protagonist gives chase. This wonderful artwork. I think what they did is try to adapt as much of the Burroughs, Edgar Rice Burroughs Barsoom stories. So the first story is, and all the stories are only 10 pages long. The rest are reprints from the monster books of the 1950s that Marvel produced. This is a Jack Kirby, kind of a Godzilla type monster characters. Some of it features some horror stories and science fiction stories. Interesting stuff. Anyway, it was a good magazine, a great comic book to buy for only 20 cents. And this is the number 17, the second appearance of Gulliver Jones, Warrior of Mars, in Slaves of the Spider Swarm. And here, again, cover art, Kane. The writing chores is still Roy Thomas. And the embellisher here, the inker, is Sam Granger. Again, the inking in Kane's work is really hard to discern. You just don't see it, because Kane, I think, takes very much control of his own work. And here you see an early image of a very young Arnold Schwarzenegger. Always dynamic action. Just non-stop action. That's what you get from Kane. Here you see. And there's another monster. Gargantus. Stan Lee once said that he would have to find and create these names for all these monsters that he would introduce. So this one's a Godzilla type monster. And here, I believe this is Don Heck's work. It's a nice story. Things from Dimension X. The stories all have similar plot themes, but owing to the great creativity of the artist, they were always fascinating reads. So this is Creatures on the Loose, number 17, second appearance of Gulliver Jones, cover art, Kane, and we have number 18, and this is The Fury of Fra. Basically, this is a monster. So the interior art is not Kane, it's a guy named Ross Andrew. And Ross Andrew, of course, if those of us who collect comic books know, he did, after Romita left, he did the first issues of Spider-Man after Romita left. Before that, he worked for a long period of time in the 1960s in the pages of Wonder Woman. He drew a lot of the Wonder Woman issues from the 60s. And here we have the backstory of the different peoples on the planet. It goes to show that the Marvel had the intention, if the character Gulliver Jones was successful, to have a good long-running continuity, which of course never happened. All right, so the artist here, he signed it, is Tony DiPrita. interesting science fiction story from the early years. This is a reprint, obviously. In the early years, I'd say this is from the either late 40s, early 50s. And what do we have here? It's a Ditko. Beautiful Ditko artwork. Signed by the great one himself, Steve Ditko. What lurks in the mountain? Interesting. The end. So that's number 18, Creatures on the Loose. And this is number 19, The Red Barbarian of Mars. So there you go. And you have interior art. Cover art is by Kane, of course. Interior art says it's by Wayne Boring and Jim Mooney and Gil Kane. Gil Kane drew this section. This is not Gil Kane, this section. It's a different artist. And you see the two moons. Now the way the story is told is that this is Mars in the ancient past, so 1 billion years previous to the arid landscape of Mars that we have today. So that's that. Jim Mooney is a good artist. So is Wayne Boring. They're tried and true artists from the 1940s and 50s. There you see. There's the love interest, still captive. And that's how it ends, facing the barbarians. The enigma of Arhap. And Arhap does appear in the story by Gulliver Jones. So does the love interest. So we have Crango, or Crangro. Another, those names were all created. This is a Stan Lee text. You can tell by the fancy names of the monsters featured in the text. This is an interesting story. Alright, so that's that. And then we have, oh yes, Paul Reinman. Now, he's a good artist. I think some of his best work was his early work. The Inking Chores, I don't know who did that. But anyway. And if you remember Paul Reinman, he was the artist on X-Men, the cover of X-Men with Jack Kirby. Alright, so this is Creatures on the Loose, number 20. And the cover art is signed, G.K. Gil Kane. Can the warrior of Mars save the woman he loves before she becomes the bride of the barbarian? And there you see the wonderful interior artwork of Gray Morrow. So who is Gray Morrow? Gray Morrow was an excellent comic book artist. He was born in 1934, and he died in 2000. He was only 67. His most notable creation for comic books was The Man-Thing for Marvel Comics, which he fleshed out in Adventure into Fear, number 10. And the El Diablo, the Western character, Lazarus Lane, I think his name was, who first appeared in the pages of All-Star Western, number 2. They were the creations of Gray Morrow. So Morrow was an excellent draftsman, and you'll see that here in these last 2 issues of this short-lived series. So the writer here is a guy named George Effinger, and the artist, of course, is Gray Morrow. He did his own inking in the stories, and you can tell by the detail that he is a master draftsman, just the way he draws, all that detail. Look at the faces of the characters, the interesting use of paneling. It's just a departure from what you see in regular comic book art. Incredible drafting here. The use of the way he twists the panel. That's Gray Morrow. He went on to do cover arts for paperbacks and hardcovers, and he had a long career in artwork. And here's another science fiction story, Only One is Human, and that looks like Don Heck's work. Not signed, but that's Don Heck. You can tell by the way the faces are drawn. It looks similar to The Thing, and here we have an interesting story, typical of Ditko's kind of horror fiction, For Whom the Drum Beats. All right. Well, there you go. There's an early appearance of the cat. So that's number 20. So this cover is by Kane. This is the last issue. I forgot that it's not Kane. This is actually Jim Steranko. And this is an excellent cover, actually. Almost a homage here to the Conan cover, where he's standing over a heap of fallen warriors. So Gulliver Jones, Warrior of Mars, 2 worlds to win. And again, interior art is Gray Morrow. George Effinger is the writer. The story in the last 2 issues, in my view, the narration and story in the last 2 issues are the best. Far better than... Roy Thomas is a great writer for comics, but I believe George Effinger did a better job in the writing of this story. So there you see all the detail, all the background detail, everything. There's nothing lazy about the way that artwork was done. And you can see this is reminiscent of the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie Total Recall, where the character takes over the monster. And there he sets his friend free. Just amazing. Paneling. Gray Morrow is a great artist. He was not restricted. He did not restrict his talent and explored different ways of telling story with his artwork, which is what you want to see in creativity in an excellent comic book draftsman. Beautiful work. Very pensive scene here, imaging the look of Mars. And then you have this panel here. Just excellent, excellent. And we have a science fiction story. I was a prisoner of the Martians. I don't know who the artist is. Yeah, I can guess who the inker was, but I can't. Not sure who the artist is. And this is, according to this, scribbled and sketched by Larry Lever, who's the brother of Stan Lee. Ink is by Matt Fox. So it's interesting. And I think it's heavy-duty inking. But I'm just curious as to know who that artist, who the inker is. Not so much the artist, the inker. Just fascinating. Alright, so that's that. There you go. Creatures on the Loose, featuring two of the great artists, Kane and Gray Morrow, plus some of the background artwork by some of the greats in the industry from the early 1940s and 50s. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, remember to do that like, the thumbs up. Thanks everyone for your subscriptions, and as always, please comment. It does help the channel. Okay, thanks. Bye.